Bienvenue tout le monde. Welcome everybody. Bienvenue aux séances ordinaires du Conseil de la Ville de Westmount pour lundi le 6 novembre 2023. Welcome to the regular Municipal Council meeting for the City of Westmount, Monday, November 6, 2023. We have a few updates tonight. I will start at this end of the table tonight with Councillor D'Amico.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I wanted to thank the residents of Upper Lansdowne that attended the reconstruction of Upper Lansdowne Avenue, the workshop on land use and conditions to ensure a successful project on Thursday, November 2nd. A big thank you to Colleen and Claude Bismuth. Also a reminder to go to the Engage website for the questionnaire. And the next workshop will be Thursday, November 30. Also at Victoria Hall from 6 to 8. Just a very quick, another one of those little-known tax measures. The CRA announced that they will be extending the deadline to file the UHT, that's the underused housing tax, until April 30, 2024 for the 2022 calendar year without being charged penalties and interest. Basically, this little-known tax is an annual 1% tax on the ownership of vacant or underused housing in Canada. It is a federal tax that is independent of other provincial and municipal taxes on vacant or underused housing in Canada. It generally applies to foreign national owners of Canadian residential property, but it's important to note that some Canadian individuals, namely those who own residential property as a partner or a partnership or as a trustee of a trust, and some Canadian corporations may also have to file a UHT return, even if they qualify for an exemption from paying the tax. So you can always consult the CRA website for more on this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor D'Amico. Councillor Roux.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So on Thursday, November 9th, from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. in the Westmount Room, kids from 6 to 12 years old are invited to meet Montreal author Mitali Benjari Ruths for a special reading of Archie Celebrates Diwali. In the same room on Monday, the 13th, come and guess the Gillers. So Shelley Pomerantz and library staff will discuss the books that have been shortlisted for the Scotiabank Giller Prize, Canada's largest literary prize.
Councillor Roux, back to guessing the Giller.
Yes. So did you hear me before I start over? We'll presume that you heard me. So guessing the Giller on Monday, November 19th. Then this weekend at Victoria Hall from 10:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. So on both days, Saturday and Sunday, will be Artisans Westmount. So perfect place to go and start your holiday shopping. A non-perishable food item is required as an admission, and if not, $2 for the Westmount Public Security Department's annual holiday food drive. And then 1 week later, again in Victoria Hall, will be the Friends of the Library book sale. So Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor, do you... Quick thank you on our covered.
Sure. Well, I was kind of scooped by Councillor D'Amico, but I'll just follow up by thanking all the residents who did turn out last Thursday for the public consultation for Upper Lansdowne. As I said that evening, this is something we're doing that is quite different and quite new for Westmount, where we are having these consultations really upstream in the development and planning for our major reconstruction projects. And so before the engineering department has even lifted up a pen or a mouse, I guess in this case, we go into the community and we really try to get some feedback from the community that will inform our decision making when it comes time to putting together some concepts. And so the plan here is to put together now that we've heard from the community, the engineering department is going to go back, use their expertise, use best practices, use the norms, come back with a few proposals, and then go back again to the community for some more feedback. So like I said, this is new. We've had some public consultations in the past, but they've been more on the information side. Now they are really true and true consultations where we're getting that information upstream before we start making decisions.
Yeah, I also attended that meeting, and it was very much, it's a blank slate. You can, or a map where you were able to leave your questions, your comments, your feedback from the people who actually live on the street. and who experienced the street. And so it was very helpful and quite a good turnout. Councillor Bostock.
So we have lots of cleaning of leaves happening around the city. There was a sort of notice on social media saying that there had been a bit of a delay in picking up bags. So don't fear, they are going to get to them. Just keep putting them on your property and the city will come and get them soon. We are having an issue this year for some reason with contractors blowing leaves onto the public domain. So whether it's on the sidewalk or onto the street, which is slowing down our street cleaning. So if you are speaking with your contractor, please have them bag their leaves and put them onto the people's property, and then they'll get picked up. Public Works is working with public security to advise the contractors to not push the leaves onto the public domain. So we are also doing repair on potholes and getting ready for winter.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gallery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually have a very exciting announcement to make tonight. This month, 10 years ago, we opened our jewel of the Westmount Recreation Center. So to mark the occasion, we'll be having a coffee and cake this coming Wednesday at 5 p.m. And it's quite hard to believe 10 years has gone by. And anyway, we're excited to at least celebrate and participate as a community in that. Also, this coming weekend is the Cape Ann Hockey Exchange, where our Westmount kids, hockey players, do an annual exchange where we host 1 year or they go down to the Boston area and play hockey. We have 12 teams, 100 of which we have 3 girls teams, and 118 kids in total who will be participating. So we want to wish them the best of luck and hope they have a great time and come home all in one piece. Lastly, in Westmount Park, we'll be opening, hopefully next week, the artificial ice rink. Don't have an exact date yet, but you can see it in action right now, and please check the website. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Aronson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one quick announcement, or rather, this is a thank you. Last week, we, as part of Quebec's Waste Reduction Week, the city invited its residents to participate in 2 guided tours to discover where exactly our recycling and our landfill materials go. Both were very, very well attended and extremely interesting. And so I wanted to just thank all the residents who attended and to the administration and staff who made it possible. It was a very interesting field trip, and I hope we get to repeat it again sometime in the future for those who either want to see it again or missed it the first time. Thank you very much.
Okay, and then on that note as well, the new deposit system is rolling out across Quebec as well since November
Indeed.
1st.
So make sure to bring your bottles back and collect your deposits. Over. Thank you.
Councillor Kez, do you have any updates?
Just a little, I know Councillor Roux had mentioned the Artisan Westmount to be held November 11th and 12th, but I just want to exemplify the important component of the $2 entrance fee and non-perishable goods. It's a very important component for the holiday baskets. Oops, I should be talking. It's a very important component to the Holiday Basket Initiative, which has been helping families in need in Westmount for over 20 years. So that is very important. So come maybe 2 times. Thank you.
Yeah, and there'll be an opportunity also to donate to those holiday baskets. Will be outside Metro and Cinq Saisons more towards the end of the month, especially on Giving Tuesday. So thank you, Councillor Kez. Before we start with the question period, I'll just give a brief update as well about something that we've been working on with the ASM mayors, with the other mayors and the mayors of the CMM, the whole metropolitan area, is the issue with funding of public transit for the island of Montreal and for the surrounding areas, and how the province is really falling short on any of that, on that funding. And when they fall short on that funding, they pass it down to taxpayers, because that ends up coming out, that will end up coming back to us on our quote-part. And we are joining together to ask the Minister of Transport to increase that funding, because that deficit will have a big impact on on our local budgets as well. So we will make public, we will table, it's just being finalized, but a letter that we sent collectively from all the mayors across the island of Montreal and the South Shore and the North Shore and Laval, asking the minister for more funding on public transit. Donc, on va commencer avec la première période de questions. We'll start with those that took the great effort to come down to City Hall and participate in their local government.
Bonsoir, Fabrice Veil, 560 Clermont.
Bonsoir.
Since the pandemic, I need to put glasses now. Basically, two questions. One very quick one, following up on what you mentioned about Lansdowne. I'm hoping that you'll do the same thing for Claremont when it's to either gather optimization ideas and things like that. Because a little note on the side, I've noticed recently that every time the light on Claremont and Saint-Antoine is not working, I feel traffic is more fluid, for instance, but that's just an observation. The other question I had was question and mentioning things. I did the survey on the safety around the schools across Westmount. And I'm both a father, but also a driver and a bicycle driver and a pedestrian close to Mayanopolis, ECS, you name it, all the schools on the upper part of Westmount. What bothered me in the survey is that you have questions where you have choice between A and B, and none of the choice would have been suitable. Maybe on a different subject, what I will discuss with Mrs. Roux, but I think what is key for the safety is the fluidity across the school. And there's one thing which I've noticed ever since I've lived in Montreal the past 8 years, that I grew up in Paris, is that within each entrance of a school in France, in Paris, you have 50 meters, or 20 meters, 10, 50 meters on each side of the door, where you have a barrier, so the kids cannot run and go into the street. So they have to go on the side to the pedestrian walkway. There's no other way. So that's one way, easy way to increase the safety. Everywhere in Montreal, you put 10, 20 meters of barrier just in front of the school door. So people have to make the extra few steps to go and cross the street.
Okay.
The second thing also, which I've noticed each time I go on Westmount Avenue, is why isn't there the white marking on the pedestrian crosswalk 2, 3, 4 blocks away from the school? So you're already sensibilized by the fact that they are pedestrians, reminded that they have priority, and that this is not a racetrack. And those are things which I think are, so it's not really a question, but it's expressing things where, you know, if people are relaxed when they go in front of a school, there's less chance of an accident. But if you make signs before, instead of making countless ralentisseurs or things where actually you might end up being distracted as a driver or as a cyclist, those are things that are beneficial. And then the last thing, and by now you probably know my love for Montreal cyclists, and I say that I've been riding my bicycle in Paris, in London, in New York, and in Montreal. So I'm perfectly aware that I'm not as strong as a vehicle. So I'm not going to try my luck and try to get run over. I'm careful, and I respect the signs on the street. And I think that in Westmount, one part, and maybe across Montreal, starting a campaign of making people sensitive to the fact that the weak person there is always the pedestrian, and that in the figures you never see any figures about the cyclists that are running over pedestrians, and that there should be more effort made on protecting the pedestrian. And I remember being in Geneva 4 or 5 years ago and seeing that sign with a guy who's holding his bicycle, who's a pedestrian, and saying, here, it's the pedestrian that has priority.
Okay.
So those are things. So it's not really a question, but it's, or the
All
question
very
was
good,
why
yeah.
why
All
wasn't
very
there
good
more
feedback.
options in the survey to answer, to give an opinion?
Okay, so I don't know, the survey was developed with the communications team with an outside resource that
Okay.
had worked on survey. So we will make sure that they get that feedback. You're not the first person to give me that feedback.
Okay.
So we've heard it from a few people that they didn't, for multiple choice, they didn't like the choices that were given there. So we will make sure that they get that. But I will also share with them, and I see our Director of Public Safety is at the back of the room, the proposal of the painted lines. Paint is easy to do.
That goes a long way.
Yeah, that goes a long way. And we've seen it with a lot of different areas, whether you paint, bike paths green and narrow, like the visual narrowing of the street. So we will give that feedback. I think they're trying to do some final painting if they can get it done right now, but it's all very weather dependent. Otherwise, it has to wait till the spring. But I very much like that proposal around.
Because this is what you see the most.
Yeah, and the safer you make it, the more kids that will
And
walk
the
to
last
school.
thing, because now we just changed hours, so it's night much earlier. But like I'm thinking about the English school on the Westmount, just not right to Minneapolis. It's pretty dark when you arrive at the corner there. So putting like a soccer field light that is on from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on the pedestrian crosswalk would be part of the
Better
things
lighting around the
that are
schools.
helpful. Because you have a green light at the corner of Grosvenor, and the next block is pretty dark, and that's where you have the school. And you're wondering, this is the thing where you can easily miss someone who's not crossing properly.
Yeah. Okay, those are all very good suggestions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing them. Next question.
Good evening, esteemed council members. There has been a lot of rhetoric recently.
Can you
council.
just state your name? Sorry.
Sorry, my name is George Voulimanos. I live on Edge Hill. I don't know if I have to give you my address, but
You do not have to give
Okay,
me your address.
super.
It has been tradition, but you do not have to give it to me. Okay, George Wulumanis. Okay, thank you.
sorry. So, good evening, esteemed council members. There has been a lot of rhetoric in council recently from a vocal minority, I believe, regarding the heinous crime of dogs off leash in the Summit Woods. I read in the Westmount Independent about overzealous informants calling Westmount security when someone is spotted with their dog untethered. They complain that these foreigners, these non-Westmounters, come and abuse our natural resources. I myself live in Westmount. I'm a dog owner. I've been taking my dog to the Summit for 12 years, and I have never been warned or ticketed, but it has led me to question the regulation for dogs in this area. Now, the Summit Woods has been designated as a bird sanctuary, and presumably, because of that, there are 3 sets of leash regulations throughout the year. Nesting season from April to June, where dogs are on leash at all times, and then from June to October, where they are curiously on leash from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then the rest of the year when they are off leash. I would like to question why the Summit Woods has certain time restrictions regarding dogs off leash. Notwithstanding the fact that dogs will stay on trails 95% of the time, the only reason it would be an issue is if there are birds that nest on the ground. Of the 10 most common ground nesting birds in North America, not a single one is found locally. But let's say for argument's sake, one of those, say a very lost flamingo, which is one of the 10, wants to make its home in the Summit during nesting season. Okay, so from April to June, dogs are on leash to give this flamingo some space.
I'm
Come
supposed to
June-
give you a time limit, but I am enjoying
worry,
your
it's
question.
a couple more.
So I'm going to allot
It'll
someone
be less than
else's
the gentleman
time.
before, but
I'm going
please.
to allot someone else's time until you
Okay.
get to your question.
Come June, is the flamingo somehow aware that the dogs are allowed off leash between 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.? What exactly is it doing before 10 a.m. and after 5 p.m. that dogs can't be in its proximity? Coincidentally, or perhaps not so coincidentally, the best bird watching times are between dawn and 10 a.m. and in the late afternoon and early evening. So these hours exist at the request of bird watchers and has absolutely nothing to do with the health and safety of the birds themselves. So at this point, I would like to quote that bastion of logic, Spock from Star Trek: "The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one." 31% of households in Montreal have dogs. Bird watchers are a tiny fraction of that. The majority of people using the Summit Woods are there to walk their dogs off leash. It is a far more natural and healthy experience for both canine and caretaker to walk in the woods than to stand in a gravel-covered dog park. And despite what some would say, the vast majority are Westmounters. But quite frankly, their place of residence shouldn't even be a discussion. Are people from other parts of the city who don't own dogs not allowed to walk in the Summit Woods? A small but vocal and agitated minority of people are there for bird watching. And why should these bird peeping toms get to dictate when dogs can or can't be off leash? And the fact that they are calling public security and that security is having to waste their time responding is quite frankly infuriating. With the increase in car and home theft in Westmount the last few years, is policing dogs off leash really the most effective use of Westmount Security's time and resources? The regulations are nonsensical. Setting aside the nesting season to ensure no feathers are ruffled, flamingo or otherwise, I'm here to request that Council examine the absurd hour restrictions for the June to October period, allow reason and logic to prevail, and to remove the regulations regarding dogs on leash between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you for the many, many points that you raise. A wise mayor once told me as I was taking this role, the advice was do not mess with the dogs. So I too am a user of Summit Woods almost daily. The reason, from what I understand, so these rules, certainly outdate my time on council and my time as mayor, but it was to try and find some balance. First of all, the Summit Woods is not just a dog run. It is a pristine, or it is an area of Westmount that we absolutely need to protect. We have seen higher usage since the pandemic. We are one of, in the area, so it's sort of, central Montreal, we are one of the only areas where you can walk your dog. It's not the only area on the island of Montreal, but it is one of the only areas. So there's a lot of people that come to Summit Woods to walk their dogs. But we have a responsibility also to protect the woods as well. And so one of the very concerning things we've seen is the increase in trails. So I'm sure you've seen it. There's a lot more trails that have been cut, especially during the pandemic where people started walking. So that's then having an effect on the undergrowth and the vitality of the Summit Woods. The reasoning that I think, and certainly I think Director McBain back there would probably have more knowledge about the hours and why we did that, is one, to ensure that there is some growth. And you'll see it, like it's 3 months of no dogs up there, and you see a lot more undergrowth in the trilliums and all of that aren't getting trampled on. It is a shared space though as well. So there are a lot of people who don't want to walk. They want to be able to walk at Summit Woods without walking with, packs of dogs at certain times. What we've seen though with the restricted hours is that from 8:30 to 10, it's packed, right? So it's very, especially on a weekend, on a Saturday morning, like 8:30 to 10 is it's not very enjoyable because it's packed. We are looking at ways to enhance the biodiversity and protect Summit Woods going forward, and those measures will be built into our budget for next year. And not most people are respecting the rules, but there are some that are not. So public security is up there to ensure that those that aren't respecting the rules get caught. We've had some aggressive dogs that should not be off leash, that have, reports that they should not be off leash, yet they continue to do it. So those fines have to be handed out. But it is, for the most part, yes, you are right. Most people are following the rules. So but Summit Woods does need some investment, and this council intends to do that investment in the coming budget. But I did very much enjoy your research and your feedback, and I'm glad that you love it up there. And there's a community up there, right? But there are also a lot of people, I see it. Not everybody, you see, I don't want to call it an altercation, and I won't repeat what the woman said to me. But there are people who are not following the rules. So it does require, there needs to be more of a contract with people that they will adhere to it. A bit, you can look at places like Morgan Arboretum. You have to sign an agreement and you have to follow the rules, and you are educated about what those rules are.
Yes, but I'm actually questioning
The hours.
utility of the rules. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
sorry,
and the
specifically
hours
what?
are because we do get feedback from other people as well that they want to be able to enjoy Summit Woods without dogs off leash and be able to walk without being concerned. If you're, let's say, somebody who has mobility issues or elderly, you don't want a dog to jump up on you.
In that case, I would still allot it towards majority use. So, I mean, the hours right now overwhelmingly favor during that period those who don't have dogs. And I would say that I would invert it. Maybe not those hours specifically, but I would invert the amount of hours being
Okay,
able to be used.
I take your feedback, Councillor Gallery, and then anyone else who wants to comment.
Well, thank you for your observations. I'd just like to add that we have a huge commitment on behalf of our residents also for the protection and preservation of these Summit Woods. So it's not just the dogs on the paths, it's the dogs trampling all season long. So yes, it gives a break for 2 months in the spring, but in the summer, the growth underneath in the woods also needs a break. So it's a compromise, and it's an imperfect balance, but there's
I recognize the motivation. However, in reality, the dogs are actually using the trails. There is very little off-trail running.
that's
Right,
anyway.
Debatable,
Yeah.
but that's okay. We hear your feedback.
Okay.
But thank you for raising the point and taking the effort to, does anyone else want to comment?
So the
need
most
to turn on
frequently
your
asked
mic.
question that I get, I'm from District 1, so I live on your street. So, yeah, so the most frequently asked question is Summit Woods a dog run? So that is the question, which we will have an answer for you shortly. So also I refer you to I discussed last time the legal framework. So you're invited to look at the provincial legal framework on what is a dog run and the definitions.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question. Anyone? No? We can move to online. Do we have any online questions? No? Oh my goodness. Okay. On va commencer avec l'adoption de l'ordre du jour. Councillor Kez. With the addition of new business.
Je appuie que l'ordre du jour de séance ordinaire du Conseil le 6 novembre 2023 soit adopté avec l'ajout d'un point suivant sous l'affaire nouvelle. 22.1 Motion introduction de l'enseignement obligatoire de Holocauste à partir de la 6e année pour l'année scolaire 2024 à 2025.
Merci beaucoup. A seconder will be Councillor Aronson. All in favor? Carried. Item number 5, numéro 5, approbation des procès-verbaux, confirmation of minutes. Again, Councillor Keds.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the minutes of the regular council sitting held October 16, 2023, of the special council sitting held October 19, 2023, as well as the special council sitting and of the demolition committee sitting held on October 24, 2023, be approved.
Thank you very much. A seconder is Councillor Bostock. All in favor? Carried. Reports to council. Rapport au Conseil. Le document suivant est déposé. Liste et règlements adoptés lors de l'Assemblée ordinaire du Conseil d'agglomération le 19 octobre 2023. Councillor Chamy, le rapport de la main-d'œuvre.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The workforce report for the month of September 2023 is now tabled.
Thank you. 6.3, c'est Conseiller Demico, registre des paiements.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. La liste des paiements pour le mois de septembre 2023 est déposée.
Thank you. 6.4, list of approvals in virtue of bylaw 1507. Councillor Chamy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In accordance with bylaw 1507 on the delegation of powers to certain employees of the City of Westmount, the list of authorization of expenditures for the month of September 2023 is now tabled.
Thank you. 6.5 is Councillor Demico, list of duties on transfer invoices.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. La liste de facturation des droits de mutation pour le mois de septembre 2023 sont déposées.
Merci beaucoup. 6.6, c'est encore Councillor Demico, état financier comparatif.
With respect to Section 105.4 of the Cities and Towns Act, the following statements were filed by the Treasurer. The comparative financial statement of the revenues and expenditures of the 2023 fiscal year as at September 30, 2023, and those of the 2022 fiscal year for the same corresponding period, a copy of which is attached here too. The comparative financial statement of the projected revenues and expenditures for the 2023 fiscal year and those provided for in the adopted budget for that fiscal year, a copy of which is attached here too.
Thank you very much. Item number 7, numero.
Just
Oh,
one.
sorry, you want to do
yes,
some
sorry.
some
Just
clarification
very,
on that?
Very one quick comment. I will answer the most frequently asked questions regarding this. It's the appropriation. So if we look at the bottom, there is a there is a, instead of we had budgeted a 12.547 million appropriation. We expect the forecast to be 6.016 million. Again, this is a forecast of what's expected coming up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number 7, numero 7, adoption of councillor's position on the items to be submitted to the Montreal Urban Agglomeration Council. Councillor Kez.
I move that the mayor, or in her absence, the acting mayor, be authorized to make any decisions she deems necessary and in the best interest of the city of Westmount and its residents regarding the items on the agenda of the Montreal Urban Agglomeration Council meeting to be held November 23rd, 2023.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Bostock. All in favor? Carried. Item number 8 is Councillor Gallery. Support Marianopolis College, programme d'aide financière aux infrastructures récréatives, sportives et de plein d'air gymnasium renovation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas the provincial government provides grants for the Programme d'aide financière aux infrastructures récréatives, sportives et de plein air, which is aimed at the renovation of sports infrastructures. Whereas Marianopolis College wishes to apply for this grant to renovate its indoor gymnasium. Whereas by agreeing to support the renovation indoor gymnasium project and entering into an agreement with Marianopolis College, the City of Westmount will have priority access to their campus for its sports and recreation programs outside of school programming for which a schedule will be determined. I move, Madam Mayor, that the Municipal Council of the City of Westmount support Marianopolis College's project to renovate its indoor gymnasium in order for the latter to benefit from financial assistance from the Ministère de l'Éducation as part of the Programme d'aide financière aux infrastructures récréatives, sportives et de plein air. That the Municipal Council of the City of Westmount commit to entering into a service agreement with Marianopolis College for the renovation of its indoor gymnasium in order for it to be accessible to Westmount's general population.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Shammy. Any further comments on this?
Self-explanatory.
All in favor? Item number 9 is Councillor Gallery concerning Marianopolis. Support Marianopolis College Programme d'aide financière aux infrastructures récréatives, sportives et de plein d'air playing field. And this is again looking for grants for this. It is not an approval of the project.
Right. I will do the whereases again. So thank you, Madam Mayor, which are very similar. Whereas the provincial government provides grants for the Programme d'aide financière aux infrastructures récréatives, sportives et de plein air, which is aimed at the renovation of sport infrastructures. Whereas Marianopolis College wishes to apply for this grant to rebuild their current natural playing field, replacing it with a full-size synthetic field. Whereas by agreeing to support the playing field reconstruction project and entering into an agreement with Marianopolis College, the City of Westmount will have priority access to their campus for its sports and recreation programs outside of school programming for which a schedule will be determined. I move that the Municipal Council of the City of Westmount support Marianopolis College's project to rebuild their current natural playing field, replacing it with a full-size synthetic field in order for the latter to benefit from financial assistance from the Ministère de l'Éducation as part of the Programme d'aide financière aux infrastructures récréatives, sportives et de plein air. That the Municipal Council of the City of Westmount commit to entering into a service agreement with Marianopolis College for rebuild of their current natural playing field, replacing it with a full-size synthetic field in order for it to be accessible to Westmount's general population.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Peart. Again, this is not an awarding of a contract, but this is the seeking, is giving support to Marianopolis as they seek grants for these infrastructure projects on their territory. And the turf field there is a soccer field there now. But it is important to note that there are many different options of this in terms of the materials that are used. And we've seen some come to the city recently at schools where they have used organic turf fields that are proving to be quite effective. So all in favor? Carried. Item number 10 is Councillor Shammy, is the appointment of interim substitute city clerk.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Je propose que M. David Lapointe soit nommé greffier substitut par intérim à compter du 10 novembre 2023, le tout conformément à la recommandation de la directrice des ressources humaines, quand l'absence ou l'incapacité de greffier, de l'assistant greffier et de la greffière substitut, M. Lapointe soit autorisé à exercer l'autorité et les privilèges de la signature normalement réservés aux greffiers.
Merci beaucoup. A seconder on this will be Councillor D'Amico, and this is our Director General is right now the substitute city clerk who will be out of the city for a few days. So it is making sure that that is in order while she's absent from the city. That will be Dave Lapointe who will be acting in that role. So all in favor? Carried. Item number 11, Employment Termination, Director of Legal Services and City Clerk's Office. Councillor Shammy again.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Je propose que le Conseil entérine l'entente intervenue avec M. Denis Ferland, que la directrice générale soit autorisée à payer à M. Ferland toutes les sommes qui lui sont dues conformément aux conditions de travail et rémunération des cadres et selon les modalités de l'entente conclue le 28 octobre 2023.
Merci beaucoup. En appuyant, c'est Councillor D'Amico. All in favor? Carried. Item number 12 is again, Councillor Shammy, paiement de la quote-part à l'UMQ.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the amount of $85,894.43, taxes included, be paid to the Union des municipalités du Québec for the payment of the City of Westmount's share of the Guarantee Fund for the primary liability insurance for the period of January 1st, 2023 to January 1st, 2024, the whole in accordance with the financial information presented in the decision-making summary number 2023-2057.
Thank you. A seconder on this will be Councillor D'Amico again. This is a standard. We do this every year. So all in favor? Carried. Again, Councillor Shammy, writing off unpaid Hydro Westmount customer accounts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas Hydro Westmount has registered a total of $20,168.55 in bad debts, including taxes, for its 2020 operating year and its 2023 budget. And whereas the client accounts that are subject of this application for authorization have been entrusted unsuccessfully to a collection agency, I move that the lists of Hydro Westmount's unpaid customer accounts for the year 2020 attached hereto be written off in the amount of $20,168.55.
Thank you very much. Councillor D'Amico will second again. I don't think you need any further comments about that. All in favor? Carried. Item number 14 is l'achat regroupé de la Ville de Montréal, celle de déglaçage pour la saison d'hiver 2023-2024. Councillor Bostock.
I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $948,772.04, including tax credits for the supply of road salt for the 2023-24 winter season. That, as part of the Ville de Montréal Group Purchase Contract Tender Number 23-19980, the tender of Compass Minerals Canada Corp. Be accepted for a total amount of $1,039. $1,039. How do I? Thank you. $1,029.08. Sorry, my brain is not working, including taxes, to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-2043.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Aronson. Any further comments on this?
Other than not being able to say numbers, it is less expensive to buy salt as part of a bigger group.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 15 is Councillor Aronson. Call for tenders by invitation, rental and maintenance of 2 electric ice resurfacers for 36 months.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a very exciting item. I'm going to do the whereases. Whereas the City of Westmount is considering entering into a contract pursuant to Section 573.3 of the Cities and Towns Act with Robert Brudeau Incorporated for the rental and maintenance of 2 electric ice resurfacers for 36 months. And whereas in accordance with Section 573.3.0.1 of the Cities and Towns Act, a notice of intention was published in the Système électronique d'appel des offres du gouvernement de Québec on October the 5th, 2023, informing of the city's intention to award a contract by mutual agreement to a supplier identified in said notice. I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $16,100.88, including tax credits, for the 2023 fiscal year for the rental and maintenance of 2 electric ice resurfacers for 36 months, tendered by invitation number INV 2023-024. And further, to award to Robert Brudeau Incorporated a contract for this purpose as its bid price for a maximum amount of $326,492.21, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents and the call for tenders by invitation INV-2023-024. And finally, to allocate this expenditure in the accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-2052.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Gallery. Any further comments?
Just to say, it's gratifying to see the market responding to the demand for large-scale electric vehicles. This one happens to be an ice resurfacer, but I look forward to this technology being used in other large vehicles that we can then rent and or own for the City of Westmount's use. I encourage my fellow councillors to vote for it.
Seconded for Councillor Gallery, seconded by Councillor Gallery. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Councillor Bostock, item number 16, numéro 16, appel d'offres public, location de tracteurs chargeurs avec opérateur.
I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $61,365.19, including tax credits for the 2023 fiscal year for the rental of loader tractors with operators, tender number PUB 2023-041, and to award to Les Entreprises de Construction Ventec, Inc., the contract for this purpose at its bid price for a maximum amount of $624,026.81, including taxes, for the winter season from November 1st, 2023 to April 30th, 2024, with 2 renewal options. The whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the call for tenders, PUB 2023-041, and to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-2041.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor D'Amico. Any further comments?
No.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 17, numéro 17, is the adoption of the interim control bylaw 1611, covering for certain uses, new constructions, demolitions, extensions, transformations for the purpose of converting the use of a building, cadastral operations, and lot subdivisions for immovables located in the sector identified as the southeast sector. Le greffier substitut de la ville, Madame Manville.
Copies of the bylaw have been remitted to all members of council and are available for public reference in due course. The object of this bylaw is to temporarily restrict the issuance of permits or certificates for all uses, with the exception of uses in the community equipment use group as identified in zoning bylaw number 1303, and with respect to the following activities: new building construction, building extensions, building demolitions, transformations for the purpose of converting a building's use, cadastral operations, and lot subdivisions.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que je peux avoir la déclaration de la part de chaque membre du conseil présent à la fin qu'il ou elle a lu le règlement? So declared. Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I move that bylaw number 1611, entitled Interim Control Bylaw Governing for Certain Uses, New Constructions, Demolitions, Extensions, Transformations for the Purpose of Converting the Use of a Building, cadastral operations and lot subdivisions for immovables located in the sector identified as the southeast sector be adopted.
Thank you. A seconder on this will be Councillor Aronson. Do you have any further comments, clarifications? The paper had a mistake in the paper last week where they identified an area that was not included in this, which was the St. Stephen's Church.
I did not catch that.
Yeah,
So-
which
so-
they are going to correct this week, but so if anyone is wondering, nothing on the south side of, this is not included in the zone.
Right, and so the purpose of this resolution is to restrict any changes while we are undergoing the very comprehensive study that involves the PPU, the particular planning program, PPU.
Plan particulier urbaniste.
Thank you. That will apply to the southeast, and that instead of just taking on these buildings one by one, there will be a long consultation with the city, and not just with the surrounding area, but with all community members and organizations and stakeholders that will come together and collectively work towards a new vision for what is arguably the entry into the city from Ville-Marie. So we can't have single property owners jumping ahead and coming to us with projects that would already be non-conforming and then will already trigger a PPCMO or a SCOPE. So that we have a global vision, this is the essential step that will restrict these kinds of permit applications. But to be clear, we haven't had any conforming permit applications in this sector.
In the 10 years since we have changed the zoning in this area, not one project has ever been submitted that actually met the current zoning rules.
Which signals to us is that the rules need a rewrite, and to rewrite the rules, we're not going to do it one property at a time, we're going to do it for the whole sector.
Yes, so this the public consultation aspect of this is critical and will be extensive, and will use all the tools accessible at this point. And this is the Bureau de Projet being led by Tom Flees, who's just come back to the city to lead that. This will be one of the major projects that they obviously deal with. Donc, merci beaucoup. So I need a seconder on that. Councillor Shammy, and all in favor? Carried. I declare the bylaw number 1611 entitled Interim Control Bylaw Governing for Certain Uses, New Constructions, Demolitions, Extensions, Transformations for the purpose of converting the use of a building, cadastral operations, and lot subdivisions for removables located in the sector identified as the southeast sector, having been duly adopted, and it is ordered that notices be given as required by law. Item number 18 is again Councillor Peart, the tabling of the Planning Advisory Committee minutes, September 2023.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. Je propose que le Conseil prenne acte et accepte le dépôt du procès-verbal de l'Assemblée régulière du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme, le CCU, de septembre 2023, tenu le 19 septembre et le 21 septembre 2023.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Madame Gallery. All in favor? Carried. Again, Councillor Peart. Item number 19 is the approval of the Site Planning and Architectural Integration Programs, SPAIP, September 2023.
Thank you, Madame la Mairesse. I move that the Municipal Council act on the recommendations of the Planning Advisory Committee, the PAC, as set out in the minutes of the regular meeting of September 2023, and approve, with respect to each of them, the plans and permitted conditions attached to items CCU 23-09.01, CCU 23-09.03, to CCU 23-09.08, CCU 23-09.10, CCU 23-09.14, CCU 23-09.16, to CCU 23-09.18, CCU 23-09.20 to CCU 23-09.28, CCU 23-09.30, CCU 23-09.32, and CCU 23.09 -09.36 to CCU 23-09.39 of the agenda of said meeting held on September 19th and September 21st of 2023.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Gallery. Anything of note that you want to highlight in there?
Highlights, like lots of doors and windows, retaining walls, some landscaping, a new construction, a new version of a new construction on Roxborough, and some other exterior renovations.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Item number 20 is again Councillor Peart. This is a denial of site planning and architectural integration program.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. And for these, I always read the whereases because they are often particular to the application. Whereas the minutes of the regular meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee, the PAC, for the month of September 2023, held on September 19th and September 21st of 2023, were tabled at this sitting. Whereas the main role of the PAC is to analyze and give recommendations on any request that must be submitted to it in accordance with the Act respecting land use planning and development, CQLR, Chapter A19.1, and on any other application in matters of land use planning and development that is submitted to it by council. Whereas an application has been submitted by the applicant under bylaw 1305 on site planning and architectural integration programs. Whereas said application does not meet the objectives and criteria of bylaw 1305. Whereas the PAC has issued an unfavorable recommendation regarding the said application as stated in the minutes of the regular meeting of September 2023. Whereas according to bylaw 1305 on the site planning and architectural integration programs, council must decide on the recommendations of the committee by way of resolution. I move that the municipal council act on unfavorable recommendation of the Planning Advisory Committee, the PAC, as set out in the minutes of the regular meeting of September 2023, held on September 19th and September 21st of 2023 in item CCU 23-09.19 of the agenda of said meeting, period.
Thank you. Councillor Gallery will second. I don't think we need to add any further comments to that. All in favor? Opposed? Noted. Councillor D'Amico. Item number 21, payment cadastral operation lot 1581266.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. Whereas an application was submitted on July 17th of 2023 under file number 2023-02003 for cadastral operation on lot 1581266, whereas the application proposes to subdivide the original lot 1581266 of the cadastre of Quebec into two new lots, namely lots 6571863 and 6571864, allowing the two existing buildings to be sited on their separate lots. Whereas in accordance with section 4.1.2.1 of bylaw 1301 concerning subdivisions, an owner must, as a prerequisite condition for the approval of a plan relating to a cadastral operation, other than in case of a cancellation, correction, or replacement of lot numbers, which does not result in an increase of the number of lots, as determined by council, undertake to transfer, free of charge, to the city a parcel of land which, in the opinion of council, is suitable for the establishment of or the enlargement of a park or playground, or for the preservation of a natural area, an area of land equal to 10% of the land comprised in the plan, or pay an amount to the city equal to 10% of the value of the land comprised in the plan. That's a lot of commas.
Thank you very much. A seconder on
Sorry,
this.
I move.
You move, sorry.
I move that for the purpose of promoting the establishment, maintenance, and improvements of parks and playgrounds, and the preservation of natural areas in the territory of the city, the owner of the original lot 1581266 of the Quebec Cadastre pay the city of Westmount an amount of $52,660, corresponding to 10% of the value of the land comprised in the plan, multiplied by the comparative factor of the roll, in accordance with the terms of section 4.1.2.2 of bylaw 1301 concerning subdivisions, as a prerequisite condition for the approval of a plan relating to the cadastral operation, the object of which is to subdivide the original lot into two new lots submitted in application number 2023-02003.
Thank you very much, Councillor Peart. A seconder on this will be Councillor Gallery. Do you want to add any further comments to your
It's a lot. It's separated into 2 lots, and these are the steps that need to be followed.
Yeah. All in favor? Carried. We now move to new business, and under new business, it's item 22.1. Motion introduction of mandatory Holocaust education starting in grade 6 for the 2024-2025 school year. Councillor Aronson will read this motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to read the, there's considerable whereases here, but this is an
But
important
they are
topic. I'm
integral to the motion.
going to go through the whole thing. Whereas in its audit of anti-Semitic incidents in 2022, B'nai B'rith, Canada's oldest Jewish human rights organization, active nationally since 1875, noted there has been 2,769 such incidents in Canada during the year, including 722 in Quebec. And whereas Statistics Canada, in its 2022 document published on July the 27th, 2023, on police reported crimes in Canada, indicates at Table 6 that there were 750 police-reported hate crimes targeting religious minorities in 2022, of which 502, or 66.9%, were against Jews. And whereas Ontario recently became the first province to introduce mandatory Holocaust education into its elementary school curriculum, and whereas in tasking the Ontario College of Teachers with creating an age-appropriate program to teach about the Holocaust starting in grade 6, Minister of Education Stephen Lecce noted that according to the first study on anti-Semitism and knowledge of the Holocaust conducted by Western University and Liberation 75 in 2021, 42% of students said that they had unequivocally witnessed an anti-Semitic event. And whereas the same study revealed that 1 in 3 Ontario students believe the Holocaust was fabricated, exaggerated, or are unsure if it really happened. Whereas studies in the United States suggest that jurisdictions that make Holocaust education mandatory not only see a reduction in anti-Semitic events, but also in a decrease in hatred towards African Americans and Asians. And whereas a study published in September of 2023 by Reality Check indicates that when the study of the Holocaust begins earlier in school and is mandatory, Americans who have a greater knowledge of the Holocaust show greater warmth towards religious and racial minorities than others. And whereas as survivors age and pass away, it is more important than ever that our schools play a key role in preserving the memory of the Holocaust, protecting children from Holocaust denial and distortion that is often broadcast online. And whereas Jewish organizations urge all provinces and territories to follow Ontario's example and introduce mandatory Holocaust education in our elementary schools, I move that the Council of the City of Westmount recognize the dangers of Holocaust denial and distortion that so often target our youth. That this council urges the Ministère de l'Éducation to introduce mandatory Holocaust education in Quebec elementary schools beginning in the 2024-25 school year. And that the council invite the Ministère de l'Éducation to consult the Ontario curriculum and mandate the Conseil supérieur de l'Éducation and other stakeholders to determine how to best introduce this new curriculum and ensure teacher training. I so move.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor Aronson. A seconder on this will be Councillor Roux. Do you want to, I have further commentary if you want to go first. I will go after you.
This particular motion is extremely important for a whole variety of reasons I think don't need to be stated publicly. They're pretty obvious. But I do want to note that we are bringing this before council today on the week of the 85th anniversary of Kristallnacht, which was widely considered to be one of the most brutal and bloody pogroms carried out by the Nazi regime against the people, Jewish people in Germany and Austria some 85 years ago. And it's largely looked at as perhaps the official beginning of the Holocaust. that occurred during the Second World War. And so we're bringing this forward today because these events that we commemorate, this education that we're calling the government to include as mandatory for our elementary school students, the reason that we keep these things in mind is not only to honor those who suffered and perished through this incredibly dark period, but also to ensure that we never allow such a thing to happen again, not to Jewish people, not to any people anywhere in the world. And for as long as we keep the memory of these events alive, we have a barrier, a demarcation, a line that we as human beings pledge to ourselves and to future generations we shall not cross, we shall not allow to be crossed. And as soon as we forget how these events occurred, how easy it is for them to occur again, for those of us who forget history, we are doomed to repeat it. And so, fellow councillors, I urge you please to vote in favor of this motion, to urge our provincial government to ensure that every student in Quebec is properly educated as to the realities, the dark and bloody realities of our history, so that we can preserve the freedom and peace that we all enjoy as Quebecers and Canadians, and stand together to ensure that such events never happen again, not to the Jewish community, not to any community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aronson, and very well put. This is a motion that we had been working on for a while in the city, certainly prior to the beginning of October. And it is timely that it is on our agenda now, and it is really calling on the Quebec government to do what the Ontario government has done and add this as part of their curriculum. So while we have no control over education, that is not under our jurisdiction, we certainly felt it was important to join, like our neighbors in Côte-des-Neiges and NDG did a couple weeks ago, in asking in a formal way the government to add this as part of the primary school edges, part of the curriculum of primary schools. And it is so critical for us to be teaching this history in our schools. And on a much happier note, before we vote on this, I think I'm allowed to say it, it is going to be public within the next couple days, is that one of our own teachers from Westmount High, Chantal, has won the Governor General's Award for teaching history. And that is a wonderful achievement for her, but also it's something that the city of Westmount has been very involved in with our veterans who lost their lives in the war, have worked closely with her on a project where students did a lot of research with our archives and with our city archivist of learning about the lives and the people and the young men that they were that served in this war. But anyways, I join Councillor Aronson in his remarks. Does anyone else want to say anything before we vote? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. That brings to conclusion that part of the agenda. If there's any other questions in the room, now is the time to ask them, or online.
Hi, Penny Arsenault, St. Catherine Street West.
Welcome.
Thank you. I know I wasn't going to ask a question, so it might be a little disorganized, but I was just here to hear about the Marianopolis field and how you were proceeding with it. So I guess to make it quick, because it is the end of the night, last question period, it's kind of tiring. I have a lot of questions, but I could probably just make it quick by asking, is there going to be, like, does this have to get by your sustainability committee, your PAC committee? Does it have to go along with your Imagine Westmount 2040 plan? Because as I understand it, like the 2040 plan, if you read it, it ensures mitigation of the risks related to impacts of climate change. I'm just basically talking about covering over a green space and cutting down trees in order to put
it will go through a full process of environmental impact and what that would be, and comparing that to a natural field that was used similar amount of time during a week. So it will go through all those assessments as well.
And is the 20, imagine 2040, Westmount 2040, there was that thing with Engage Westmount, is that not?
That
Is that not a
has
current
that has sort of been, I don't want to say it's been put on hold, but it is very much part of the Bureau de Projet now, and that a big part of that will be the southeast sector is one of the big projects that we're starting with.
Because it had a big environmental
Yep, and-
demand as well. And if you look at the lifespan of these artificial fields, by the time it's 2040, Westmount will be rolling up its third artificial turf and sending that one to landfill because they last 8 to 10 years. But if you use it as much as, I've heard the amount of hours you need to use it by, you'd probably have to guess it'll be only viable for 8 years.
What we understand is that there has been enormous innovation in this area. So we will have all that information and we will share with the public what that will be.
Okay, great. And does it also have to go along with your planning advisory committee? Does it have to go through, like something that the council, I don't know how it works. It's something that the council decides on. It has to go through all the, like, is there a heritage? There's no heritage site up there?
It wouldn't require, like, you're asking if it has to go to the PAC? Like
Yeah,
if it
would
has
it
to go-
require a zoning change?
No,
It's not a heritage site.
it would not require a zoning change, I do not believe, nor would it have to go to the PAC because
Okay.
it's landscaping, and schools also have a different set of rules when it comes to landscaping.
Okay. So I guess that I'll be back.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before we adjourn the meeting? Any questions online? No? Going once, twice, that's it. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.